Hello and welcome back to House of the Wolf Horror. Tonight, something a little bit different. I want to give a shout out to my sister Jackie, who reminded me that growing up, our hometown was kind of spooky and kind of creepy, and so were the areas around it. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy some hometown horror from my neck of the woods growing up. Sis, again, thanks for the inspiration for this episode. Hope you all have a great night. I didn't believe the stories when I first moved to Franklin County. People in Benton talked about strange lights over Rend Lake, about something tall and winged perched on the old mine structures near West Frankfort, about red eyes that glowed like coals in the dark. I chalked it up to rural folklore. Every place has its monster, but I learned quickly that Franklin County's monster wasn't a metaphor or a campfire tale. It was real, and it watched people. I'm writing this from a motel room off Route 37, the kind of place where the carpet smells like mildew and the walls are thin enough to hear the couple next door arguing about cigarettes. I don't know how long I'll stay here. I don't know if I'll make it out of the county at all. But I need to get this down while I still can, before the red eyes find me again. I took a seasonal job with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources last spring. Trail maintenance, campground checks, and general grunt work around Rend Lake. I'd been drifting for a while, and the quiet woods seemed like a good place to reset. The lake was huge, stretching across Franklin and Jefferson counties, with coves and inlets that swallowed sound and light. On calm days, the water looked like black glass. My supervisor, a wiry man named Harlan, gave me the unusual orientation where the trails were, which campgrounds tended to attract rowdy fishermen, which parts of the shoreline eroded fastest. Then he added something that made me laugh at the time. And if you see something with wings bigger than a man, you didn't see it. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. It was late May when I first saw it. I'd been clearing brush along the Wayne Fitzgerald State Recreational Area. Near the northern edge of the lake, the sun was sinking behind the trees, turning the water orange. I was packing up my tools, and the sound rolled across the lake, low, vibrating, almost like a foghorn, but wrong, too organic and too close. I scanned the tree line. Nothing. Then the birds went silent. Every robin, sparrow, blackbird, gone in an instant. The woods held its breath. Then, when I saw the shape, it stood on the roof of an abandoned picnic shelter about 50 yards away. It was tall, at least 7 feet, thin. Its wings were folded tight against its back, but even folded, they stretched nearly to the ground. The creature's head was small compared to its body, with no visible neck, and its eyes. Its eyes glowed red, not reflecting, light producing. I froze. My brain refused to process what I was saying. The creature tilted its head, studying me like a hawk studies a mouse. Then it opened its wings. The span was enormous. 12 feet, maybe more. The wind from the movement rustled the leaves around me. I crouched, ready to leap. I ran. Branches whipped my face as I tore through the woods. I didn't look back. I didn't breathe. I didn't think. I sprinted until my lungs burned and my legs shook. When I finally reached the maintenance shed, I slammed the door behind me and collapsed. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a shadow, a bird distorted by distance. But I knew better. The next morning I told Harlan what I'd seen. He didn't laugh. He didn't question me. He just nodded slowly and poured himself a cup of coffee. Thought you might run into it eventually, he said. Most of us have. What is it? I asked. He shrugged. Some say it's a spirit, some say mutation from the old mines. Some say it's older than the county itself. All I know is it shows up before bad things happen. Bad things like what? Accidents, disappearances, floods, tornadoes, you name it. I waited for him to tell me he was messing with me. He didn't. Best thing I can do for you? Ignore it. Don't look it in the eyes. Don't follow it. And if it screams, cover your ears. I didn't ask what happened if you didn't. 2 weeks later, a pair of fishermen vanished near Gun Creek. Their boat washed ashore, empty. No signs of a struggle, no blood, just 2 rods, a cooler, a half-finished pack of Marlboros. Search teams combed the shoreline for days. I helped, walking miles of muddy bank, calling their names until my voice cracked. Nothing turned up. On the third night of the search, I was stationed near a wooded peninsula that jutted into the lake. The moon was bright, reflecting off the water. I was scanning the tree line with my flashlight when I heard it again, the low, vibrating call. The hairs on my arms stood up. I turned off my light and crouched behind a fallen log. The woods were still and too quiet. Then I saw the red eyes. They hovered between the trees, about 8 feet off the ground. Slowly they moved closer. The shape emerged tall, winged, gliding silently over the forest floor. It stopped at the water's edge, and it pointed. One long, clawed finger extended towards the lake, toward a dark patch of water somewhere near the moonlight that didn't reach. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The creature turned its head towards me, and the red eyes narrowed. Then it vanished, straight up into the sky with a single powerful beat of its wings. The next morning, divers found the fisherman's body tangled in submerged branches, exactly where the creature had pointed. By July, I was barely sleeping. Every night, I dreamed of red eyes watching me from the tree line. Every morning, I woke drenched in sweat. I considered quitting, but something kept me there. Morbid curiosity, maybe. Or fear of what the creature would do if I left. One night, I was patrolling near the South Markham campground when I heard a sound that froze my blood. A scream. Not human, not animal, something in between. High-pitched, metallic, like metal tearing with a woman's shriek. It echoed across the lake, bouncing off the water. I dropped to my knees and covered my ears, remembering Harlan's warning. The scream grew louder, closer. My vision blurred, my teeth vibrated, and I felt blood trickle from my nose. Then silence. I stayed curled on the ground for several minutes before I dared to look up. The creature stood 10 feet away. Its wings were half open, trembling slightly. Its chest rose and fell with slow, deliberate breaths, and the red eyes burned brighter than ever. It stepped towards me. I scrambled backwards, slipping in the dirt. The creature tilted its head, studying me. Then it crouched as if preparing to leap. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness. "Hey, you okay?" It was another ranger, Mason. The creature snapped its head towards him and hissed. Then it launched itself into the air. The wind from its wings knocked leaves and dust into my face. By the time Mason reached me, the creature was gone. "What the hell happened?" he asked. I couldn't answer. After that night, I became obsessed. I needed to know what the creature was, where it came from, and why it watched people. I spent my days researching old newspapers at the Benton Library and my nights driving the back roads around Rend Lake. That's how I found the mine. It wasn't on any map, just a collapsed entrance hidden behind thick brush near the old Orient II mine shaft. The mine had closed decades ago after a methane explosion, killing several workers. Locals said the area was haunted. I didn't believe in ghosts, but I believed in the creature, and something told me it was here. I crawled through a narrow gap in the collapsed entrance. The air inside was cold and stale. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating rusted rails and rotting support beams. Then I saw the markings. Claw marks. Deep gouges in the stone walls. Some fresh. My heart pounded. I followed the tunnel deeper, stepping over debris and old equipment as the air grew colder and the darkness felt heavier. Then I heard breathing. Slow, deep, rhythmic. Not mine. I turned off my flashlight and the breathing stopped. Then 2 red eyes opened in the darkness. I ran. I don't remember how I got out. I just remember bursting into the sunlight, gasping for air, my hand shaking uncontrollably. I didn't stop running until I reached my truck. I didn't go back. In late August, a massive storm system rolled across southern Illinois. Tornado warnings lit up every phone in the county. The sky turned green, the wind howled, and trees bent like grass. I was stationed at the Rend Lake Dam monitoring water levels. The rain was so heavy I could barely see 10 feet ahead. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the lake in blinding flashes. Then I saw it. The creature hovered above the dam, wings spread wide, fighting the wind. Its red eyes glowed through the rain. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't fleeing. It was warning. A deafening crack split the air. The ground shook, and a massive tree toppled over behind me, smashing the guardrail. The creature screamed louder than before, but this time the sound wasn't aimed at me. It was aimed at the storm, and the storm answered. A tornado touched down on the far side of the lake, tearing the trees up like paper. The creature dove toward it, wings beating furiously, and for a moment, it looked like it was trying to push the tornado away from the dam. Then the funnel shifted directly towards me. I ran for the shelter building, fighting the wind with every step. Debris flew past me, branches, rocks, pieces of metal. The tornado roared like a freight train. Just as I reached the door, something slammed into the ground behind me. The creature. It lay sprawled on the concrete, wings twisted, eyes dimming. It looked hurt, maybe dying. For a moment, our eyes met. The red glow flickered weakly. Then the tornado hit the dam and everything went black. I woke up in Benton Hospital 2 days later. A nurse told me I'd been found unconscious near the dam after the storm had passed. Several buildings were damaged, but the dam held. I asked about the creature. She looked at me like I was delirious. When I was discharged, I returned to the dam. No sign of the creature, no blood, no feathers, nothing. But the concrete where it had fallen was cracked deeply, like something heavy had slammed into it. I tried to tell Harlan what happened. He listened quietly, then sighed. It shows up before disasters, he said, but sometimes it tries to stop them. Is it dead, I asked. He shook his head. Things like that don't die. Now that brings me to tonight. I left the job, packed my truck, drove north on Route 37, planning to leave Franklin County for good. But something followed me. As I passed the turnoff for West Frankfort, I saw a shape perched on a billboard, tall, winged, and watching. Its red eyes glowed through the rain. I sped up. The creature launched into the air, keeping pace with my truck. I swerved onto a side road, tires skidding on wet pavement. The creature swooped low, its wings nearly brushing the roof. I didn't stop until I reached this motel. Now I'm sitting on the bed writing this, listening to the wind outside. Every few minutes, I hear something scrape against the window. I don't want to look. I know what I'll see. Two red eyes glowing in the dark. Watching, waiting, and I think it wants to follow me. The first body surfaced at dawn. It drifted against the riprap near the North Markham boat ramp. Pale as moonlit clay, the skin stretched tight as if something had sucked the life out from the inside. The sheriff's deputy who found it, 23-year-old Kyle Hensley, vomited twice before he could radio it in. The corpse's eyes were gone. Not eaten, removed, cleanly, like they'd been plucked by careful fingers. By noon, the news had spread across Franklin County. By sundown, the rumors had started. And by the next morning, the lake had taken another. My name is Evan Rourke, and I was the idiot who thought he understood Rend Lake. I'd been a hydrological surveyor for the Army Corps of Engineers for 9 years. I'd mapped floodplains from the Ohio to the Mississippi. I'd crawled through culverts, waded through swamps, and measured water tables in places where the mosquitoes were the size of thumbnails. But Rend Lake was different. It wasn't the size, though. At nearly 19,000 acres, it was one of the largest man-made lakes in Illinois. And it wasn't the depth, 40 feet at its deepest. Nothing compared to the reservoirs out west. It was the silence. Even on windy days, the lake felt muffled, as if the water swallowed sound. Fishermen said their motors sputtered near certain coves. Divers said their ears rang when they went too deep. Locals said the lake had moods. And the elders from the Shawnee Nation said something else entirely. They said the lake had a guardian, a Manitoa, a horned serpent older than the county, older than the tribes, older than the land itself. The creature had lived in the deep places, the cold places, the places where sunlight never reached. I didn't believe in monsters, but I believed in patterns, and the drownings were starting to form one. The sheriff's office called me in after the third body. Evan, the sheriff said, rubbing his temples, I didn't know if there's something wrong in the water. Chemicals, currents, sinkholes, anything. There's nothing wrong with the water, I told him. But something's wrong with the bodies. He nodded grimly. The eyes? Not just the eyes, I said. The cartilage around the eye sockets is intact. No tearing, no trauma. Whatever removed them did it with precision. An animal? No animal in Illinois does that. He stared at me for a long moment. Some of the old-timers are saying it's the Manitoa. I laughed. I shouldn't have. Because that night, I saw it. I was out on the lake at 11:30 p.m. running sonar sweeps near the old submerged roadbed. The moon was a thin sickle, barely enough to paint the water silver. The air was still. My equipment began to glitch. The sonar screen flickered, then went black. The boat engine sputtered, and the water rippled around me, though there was no wind. Then I heard it. A low, resonant hum, like a cello string being bowed underwater. It vibrated through the hull, through my bones, through the air itself. The lake bulged. Something rose beneath the surface, pushing the water upward in a slow, deliberate swell. At first, I thought it was a log. Then the moonlight caught it. A horn. Curved, rigid, black as obsidian. Then another. They broke the surface like the tips of a crown, glistening with lake water. Between them, the water churned, dark and thick, as if something massive was just below. I froze. The horn sank again, silently, leaving only ripples. The humming stopped, and the lake went still. I didn't breathe until the engine coughed back to life. I didn't tell the sheriff what I saw. Didn't tell anyone. But the next morning, the fourth body washed up, and this one had no tongue. I drove to the Shawnee Cultural Center in Carterville. I needed answers, and the Corps sure as hell didn't have them. The elder who met me was a woman named Miriam Redfeather. Her hair was silver, and her eyes were sharp. You saw it, she said before I even sat down. I swallowed. I don't know what I saw. You do, she said. You just don't want to believe it. I told her about the horns, the humming, the bodies. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she closed her eyes. The Manitoba isn't a myth, she said. It's a guardian, a judge, a devourer of the unworthy. Unworthy? Those who disrespect the water, those who take without giving, those who trespass where they should not. I shook my head. These were fishermen, campers, a teenager swimming with friends. Even innocents can trespass, she said softly, especially when they do not know the old boundaries. I leaned forward. How do we stop it? You don't. Then what do we do? She looked at me with something like pity. You pray the thunder comes. Thunder terrifies the Manitoba. That's what the elders say. The creature is a serpent of the deep, a being of stillness and shadow. Thunder is the voice of the thunder beings, its ancient enemies. But Franklin County was in a drought. No storms for weeks, and the drownings were accelerating. 7 bodies in 9 days, all missing eyes and tongues. They were all found near the deepest parts of the lake. The sheriff closed the beaches. The Corps closed the boat ramps. The state issued warnings. People ignored them. People always ignore warnings. And the lake kept feeding. On the 10th night, 2 men from Benton decided to go bow fishing after dark. They launched from the sailboat harbor, laughing, drinking, shining their spotlights across the reeds. At 2:14 a.m., their boat was found drifting, lights still on. 2:17, the first deputy arrived. By 2:19, he radioed a single sentence. There's blood in the water. The men were never found, but their bows were. Both snapped cleanly in half, both covered in black, oily residue that smelled like wet stone. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think about anything except the horns rising from the water. So I did the stupidest thing I've ever done. I went back out. Not at night, not alone. I brought a diver, Mark Talbot, a veteran from the Corps, a man who'd swum in reservoirs from Kentucky to Kansas. We launched at dawn, heading toward the submerged roadbed. You really think something's down there? He asked. I know something's down there. He grinned. Good. I've been bored. He wasn't bored for long. At 7:42 a.m., Mark slipped into the water. At 7:44, his voice crackled through the comms. Evan, you seeing this? I looked at the sonar. A shape was rising from the bottom. Long, curved, thick as a tree trunk. Mark, get out of the water. No, wait, there's something carved down here. Looks like symbols. Circles, spirals, old. Mark, get out. Now. Hold on, I'm getting closer. The comms exploded with static. Then, a scream, and nothing. I leaned over the boat, shouting his name. The water below me churned. Something brushed the underside of the hull. Something huge. Something alive. Mark's body surfaced 30 seconds later. His eyes and tongue were gone. His chest was crushed inwards, as if something had wrapped around him and squeezed. I pulled him onto the boat, sobbing. The lake hummed, low, hungry, and waiting. The Corps sealed off the lake. The sheriff declared a state of emergency. The governor sent investigators. None of it mattered, because the carvings Mark saw were real. Divers found them 2 days later. A ring of stones arranged in a perfect spiral, each edged with symbols older than any tribe in the region. The stones set at the deepest point in the lake, directly beneath the old river channel. A burial, a prison, maybe a warning. And the dam built in the 1970s that flooded it? We hadn't created Rend Lake. We unsealed it. The night the storm finally came, the sky turned the color of bruised steel. Lightning forked across the horizon. Thunder rolled like distant drums. I stood on the shoreline near the spillway, watching the waves crash against the rocks. The lake was angry. The lake was afraid. The humming rose again, louder than before, vibrating through the ground, through the air and through my teeth. Then the water erupted. The Manitoba rose from the depths like a nightmare-given flesh. Its body was long and serpentine, scales black and iridescent, shifting like oil on water. Its head was broad, crowned with two massive horns that curved backwards, like a bison's. Its eyes, if it had any, were hidden beneath a bony ridge. Its mouth opened, rows of teeth glistened. The thunder cracked overhead. The creature recoiled, hissing, its body thrashing against the waves. Lightning struck the water. The Manitoba screamed. Not a roar, not a hiss. A scream, high, keening, and ancient. It dove beneath the surface, vanishing into the storm-tossed depths. The humming stopped, and the lake went still. And for the first time in weeks, no one died. The official report blamed a dangerous underwater current. The Corps blamed structural instability. The sheriff blamed reckless behavior. But I knew the truth. The Manitoba wasn't gone. It was waiting. Waiting for the storms to end, for the lake to fall silent again, for the next trespassers. The spiral stones were still down there. The prison was still broken, and the guardian was still hungry. Last week, a fisherman from West Frankfort swore he saw something moving beneath his boat. Something long, dark, something with horns. He told the sheriff told me, and now I'm telling you. If you go to Rend Lake, if you swim, or fish, or boat, or dive, if you step into the water without knowing the old boundaries, listen carefully. If the lake hums, run. Because the Manitoba remembers, and it does not forgive. Franklin County has its share of ghost tales. Mine shafts that whisper, phantom lights over Rend Lake, the red-eyed shadow that people swear glides over the dam before storms. But the slag pits behind the old Orient No. 2 mine, those were different. They weren't haunted, they were avoided. Even the deer skirted them. Even the stray dogs went silent when the wind blew from that direction. My dad used to say the slag piles were still alive. Not the rock, he'd mutter, but what the rock woke up. I always thought he meant methane pockets or sinkholes. I was wrong. It was late October, the kind of night where the air feels thin and metallic, like you're breathing in the memory of winter. I was driving home from my shift at the Dollar General in West Frankfort, cutting down the back road near the old mine because it shaved 10 minutes off the trip. Fog pulled low across the fields. My headlights carved tunnels through it. That was when I saw the deer. It stood in the road, trembling, ribs showing through the hide. Not unusual. Deer get sick, get hit, get lost. But this one wasn't looking at me. It was looking behind me. I slowed. The deer bolted past my truck so fast its hooves scraped the asphalt. Then something stepped into the road. Not walked, stepped, like it was testing the ground. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, but hunched. Its spine arched like a question mark. The skin was the color of wet ash, stretched too tight over long, corded limbs. Its arms hung low, almost to its knees, and its eyes, they glowed deep, burned red, like coals buried under black dust. The thing tilted its head at me. I froze, then it opened its mouth. Not wide, long. The jaw unhinged sideways, splitting like a wound, revealing rows of thin, needle-like teeth that shimmered in the headlights. The sound it made wasn't a roar, it was a breath, a long, slow inhale, like it was smelling me. I slammed the truck into reverse and didn't stop until I hit the intersection by the old Casey's. When I looked back, the road was empty. But the fog behind me, it glowed faintly red. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with the lights on, scrolling through every local legend I could find. Franklin County has plenty. The Cesar Lights, Rend Lake Mothman, the West Frankfort Phantom Miner, but nothing matched what I saw. So I went to the one person who might know. Thomas. He'd worked the Orient mines back in the day. He lived alone in a sagging house near the slag pits, the porch collapsing in on itself like a dying lung. People said he talked to shadows. People said he'd seen things underground. When I knocked, he opened the door before I touched it. You saw it, he rasped. My blood went cold. Saw what? He stepped aside. Get in. His house smelled like coal dust and old paper. He shuffled to the table covered in maps, hand-drawn, yellowed, marked with circles and X's. You saw the ash eater, he said. I laughed because the alternative was screaming. The what? He tapped a spot on the map. The slag pits behind Orient number 2. It lives in the waste. Always has. The miners used to hear it scratching under the slag piles. Thought it was rats. Then men started disappearing. I swallowed. Why didn't anyone report it? He gave me a look that said I was young and stupid. Because the company paid better than the truth? He leaned closer. It comes out when the ground's warm. When the slag shifts. When it smells blood. I thought of the deer. And it remembers faces, he whispered. Once it sees you, it follows. I left his house shaking. When I reached my truck, there were long, thin scratches down my driver's side door. Fresh ones. I tried to convince myself it was a prank. Kids messing around, a coyote, anything but the thing I saw. But the next night, the power went out. Not just on my street, the whole block, maybe the whole town. The air felt heavy, like the atmosphere was holding its breath. I lit a candle, then I heard the footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching through the gravel outside my house. I peeked through the blinds. At first I saw nothing. Then the fog parted. It was standing in my yard. Closer now. Clearer. Its skin rippled like something moved underneath it. Its arms dangled, fingers dragging the ground. Its red eyes scanned the house, pausing on each window like it was counting them. Then it looked directly at me. I dropped the blinds. The footsteps moved towards the porch. 1 step, 2, 3. The boards creaked under its weight. Then the doorknob turned. I grabbed the kitchen knife. Useless, but it made me feel a little less helpless. The knob twisted again. Then the creature exhaled, a long, rattling breath that seeped through the cracks in the door like smoke. And then silence. When I finally looked outside, it was gone. But the fog, it glowed faintly red again. I should have left Franklin County. Packed a bag, driven until the cornfields turned into mountain ranges or ocean. But something pulled me back to the slag pits. A sick need to understand what was happening. Maybe I thought if I saw where it lived, I could convince myself it wasn't real. So the next evening, just before dusk, I parked near the old mine road and walked towards slag piles. The ground was warm. Not sun warm, furnace warm. The slag pits rose like black dunes, steaming faintly. The air smelled like sulfur and wet metal. My boots sank into the soft ash. Then I heard it, a scraping sound, like claws dragging through the gravel. I crouched behind a boulder, and the slag shifted. Something was moving underneath of it. A long, pale arm burst through the surface, fingers splayed and grasping. Then another. Then the creature pulled itself out of the slag like a corpse rising from a grave. But it wasn't alone. 3 more shapes moved beneath the surface. I stumbled backwards, kicking up ash. The creature's head snapped towards me. It hissed, a sound like steam escaping a pipe. Then it lunged. I ran. I don't remember the sprint back to the truck. I don't remember starting the engine. I only remember the rearview mirror, the creature sprinting after me on all fours and possibly fast, its limbs bending wrong, and its mouth splitting open wider and wider. I hit the gas. My truck fishtailed onto the road. The creature stopped at the edge of the asphalt as if the boundary meant something. It stood there, watching me disappear into the night. I went back to Thomas's house the next morning. His door was open. Inside, the furniture was overturned. Maps were shredded, and the walls were streaked with long, thin claw marks. Thomas was gone. But on the table, untouched, was a single sheet of paper, a hand-drawn diagram of the slag pits. Underneath, in shaky handwriting, "They're waking up." I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I sat in my living room with every light on in the house, just waiting for nightfall. Because I knew it was coming. Because it had seen me. It remembered. The fog rolled in around 9 p.m., thicker than before, redder. The house vibrated, a low, resonant hum, like something massive was moving underground. Then the scratching started. The walls, windows, even the roof. Dozens of claws, dozens of breaths, and red eyes glowing through the fog. I backed into the hallway, knife shaking in my hand. The front door buckled inwards. Then it exploded off the hinges. The ash eater crawled inside, its limbs folding and unfolding like a spider learning to walk. Behind it, more shapes slithered through the doorway, their eyes burning like coals in a furnace. I ran to the back door. It was already open. Not broken, just open, like someone had unlocked it from the inside. I sprinted into the yard. The fog swallowed me. I could hear them behind me, dozens of them, their limbs scraping the ground, their breaths rattling like broken machinery. I reached the tree line. Branches whipped my face, the ground trembled. Then the forest went silent, completely silent. I turned. The creature stood at the edge of the trees watching me. Not crossing or chasing, just watching. Then one by one they sank into the ground, slipping beneath the soil like it was water, leaving no trace behind. The fog thinned, the night returned to normal, and I realized something. They hadn't been hunting me, they'd been hurting me, pushing me away from the slag pits, away from the mine, away from whatever was waking up beneath Franklin County. I left the county the next morning. I didn't get far. At the gas station outside Benton, I saw a missing poster taped to the door. Thomas Wells, last seen near Orient Number 2. The cashier said more people had gone missing in the last week. Hikers, hunters, a couple from Susser who'd never made it home. Probably coyotes, he said, but his eyes were scared. When I got back in my truck, there was ash on the windshield. Not dust, ash. And drawn in it, with a long, thin finger, was a symbol. A circle, with 3 claw marks through it. The same symbol Thomas had drawn on his map. The same symbol marking the slag pits. The same symbol that meant they're waking up. I'm posting this now because people need to know. Because the news won't report it. Because the county won't admit it. Because the slag pits are still warm and the fog is still red. The ground still trembles at night. If you live in Franklin County, stay away from the slag pits, stay away from the old mines, and stay away from the fog. And if you see red eyes in the dark, don't run, don't scream, don't look away. Because once the ash eaters see your face, they never forget it, and they never stop watching. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please remember to hit that like button or leave a comment. And if you want to hear more from this channel and more stories that we've got written, please remember to hit that subscribe button. It'd mean a lot to us. Thank you, and have a great night.